Good morning. Those of you who may have seen a few of these previous videos may notice there is something somewhat different about what I am doing today. And that is this. You might see this. I'll get up here a little bit closer. I got a note the other day after someone watched one of my videos telling me that I look to be about 65 years old. And I'm not quite in that age range just yet. I used to look a lot younger. I was a Democrat, and I always looked about 10 years younger than I actually was. Then I became a Republican, and I aged 15 years overnight. I'm going to talk a little bit about Republicans today, but I do want to point out that painting my hair is a somewhat time-consuming chore, and it takes a lot of time out from my usual research. The other negative about all of this is the last time I did it, somebody out on the street called me Beckel. I can't think of anything worse to be called by someone passing by, especially one of my fellow right-wingers. Speaking of so-called right-wingers, you may have noticed before Election Day that many Republicans were talking about how they were going to make government smaller and more responsible or responsive to the American people. Last week, while everyone in Washington and in media was yammering about the immigration issue, when President Obama, of course, moved in his own, well, let's just say by fiat, to wave a fig leaf and grant amnesty for 5 million illegal immigrants, everyone was talking about that exclusively. You may have missed one of the bigger stories that took place earlier in the week. The New York Times had reported that the government is flying drones over America's neighborhoods, and these drones are scooping up all sorts of details from your cell phones and the like. The government says they need to do this because, well, there may be a terrorist lurking somewhere in Ames, Iowa, and they have to track that terrorist down. If your data gets collected, they claim that they just simply throw it away. Or it goes into some big storage unit somewhere in the middle of Aspen, Colorado. That might be the more likely story, but we don't get that one very often. Now, the Times story appeared, and there were a couple of reports about it on the morning newscasts that very same day, and then nothing more was said about it. As the week progressed, Republicans in the House of Representatives then voted to extend NSA spying. That is the government's national security agency, which, as you may know, has a track record that is, from a liberty perspective, is a little bit questionable. Your government says it needs to do this, and yet at the same time, your government will not secure the civs that are our borders. And now we've got a problem there that we could take care of very, very quickly, but since we don't do that, we're told we have to spy on you in order to keep everyone safe, including you. It seems to me that that's a little disingenuous when you put it all together. Meanwhile, media last week was also harping that the Republicans ended up winning in November because they used scare tactics. They used Ebola as a scare tactic, and that allowed them to clean up on Election Day. A little note here about the mainstream media and that claim. As the story was unfolding, Ebola was wall-to-wall on network news and on the cable news channels. It was also all over the front pages of newspapers. It would seem to me that it was more than just the Republican Party hyping this issue. And then within a couple of weeks, it went away, and media ran off to chase another set of fire trucks to another fire. That seems to be how media works in this day and age, but it is somewhat of a scam to sit there and claim that it's somebody else who managed to whip up the public into a frenzy about this issue. It was the media telling us that apparently we were all going to die, and we were all going to die before the end of the year, and therefore people, the media claims, made a change in government so that they could bring someone else in who might save us all. And I guess they're going to be curing Ebola as well by flying drones over all of our heads. I'd like to say thank you, and if you have any comments, cost me $7, I should note that. Please share them with me. Always good to hear from old friends.